So another day and we are back for some more championship transfer rumours. The rumour mill is not slowing down at the moment. We've got quite a few stories to talk over today, as well as some completed deals which have gone through in the past few days. We'll discuss them as well. As always, get all your thoughts in the comments down below, so what you've made of all the recent speculation. And just before we do get into anything, a big shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, you can find the new OneFootball app in the top line of the description down below. Really handy app to have, especially at this time of the year when all the latest transfer gossip's going around. You know, it's hard to keep up with all of it at some points, isn't it? Over there though, you can read up on some of the players that we talk about in today's video in a little bit more detail. They got news articles coming out about transfer speculation, as well as that you can look at their stats from last season and all that good stuff. So OneFootball link down below. But without any further ado, let's hop into some recently completed deals. So the other day we saw Luke Amos complete a move to QPR, this time on a permanent. He was on loan there last season from Spurs. What Warburton I think has done quite well with doing this whole rebuild at QPR is lowering the average age of the squad. If you look at some of the players who they have brought in on permanents, you'd imagine that going forward into the future, Don Ball and Luke Amos would be that midfield pairing for them. They've got an average age of 24. Luke Amos is a player now who's going to look to kick on in his career, and I imagine most QPR fans will be relatively happy to get him back. And QPR have also completed the signing of striker Lyndon Dykes as well. We spoke about this one in a little bit more detail on the last transfer rumour video, but they have got this one over the line. He signed on a 4-year deal. I'm sure that QPR fans will be happy now to have a striker on a permanent basis. He'll come in and be that replacement for Jordan Hugill. Big target man though, very good physicality. I'm interested to see how he manages to adapt his game to the championship. Stoke have completed the signing of John Obi Mikel. He comes in as their 4th addition to this window now. Really interested to see how he gets on at Stoke. I thought his last stint in England, he was really successful with Middlesbrough. He adds obvious quality into that Stoke midfield, both on and off the ball, and as a figure in the dressing room as well. Obviously, all his experience at Chelsea, that's a massive upgrade on what they already had in that position. So there's no doubt massive quality coming into their squad. The only thing that I'll look at with Stoke's recruitment so far, and perhaps raise an eyebrow at, is that's their 3rd player who they brought in who's now over the age of 30. Obviously with John Obi Mikel, James Chester and Stephen Fletcher coming in. So perhaps they're not all coming in as long-term options, but for next season especially, they've added a whole bunch of quality into that squad already. Northampton captain Charlie Goodwin has completed the move to Brentford. Really interested to see how this one works out. 1 million rising to 1.5 million. There was a lot of championship interest in the Northampton captain. Had a fantastic season with them in League 2 as they were promoted up to League 1. 25 years old now, and look at his defensive stats from League 2 last season. He was absolutely head and shoulders above everyone else. The thing that he's going to have to work hard at now is actually finding his way into that team, because the partnership between Janssen and Pinnock was so good at times last season. But with Pontus Jansson's injury record at times, I'm sure that he'll get a run in that side, and in a few years' time, it's probably going to be worth triple what Brentford just paid for him. We saw Joe Hart complete a move to Spurs. That puts an end to any championship interest in the goalkeeper. We'd previously seen links to Derby County and Birmingham, his former club. I, at one point, really did think that Joe Hart would make that jump to the championship, but he's chosen to go to Spurs, where I don't think he'll get all too much game time there, but we'll wait and see. Trevor Chalobah's completed the move to FC Lorient. He was on loan at Huddersfield last season. I'm sure that some Huddersfield fans were hopeful of getting him back on loan this season. I thought he improved quite a bit as the season went on, filled a couple of roles for them, played at midfield and fullback, but he's instead decided to go to France this time. As has Liverpool youngster Adam Lewis. He was previously linked with a move to Luton Town as they were looking to add a few more options at left back. But those were some of the completed deals which have gone through in the past few days. Now, without any further ado, let's hop into some transfer rumours. So starting out with one of the big transfer stories that broke the other day, Jordan Hugill being heavily linked with the move to Norwich. £5 million, the mark being talked about at the moment. Now, obviously myself as a North End fan, I know quite a bit about Jordan Hugill. I think he'd be a really good option for Norwich. I think that looking at their striking options at the moment, he'd certainly give them something different. If they were going into this season with their 3 strikers being Teemu Pukki, Adam Ida and Jordan Hugill, I think each of them have different strengths. And especially with a league like the Championship, it's all about adaptability. I think that a player like Hugill really could be quite useful for Norwich. Last season for QPR, I thought he had a successful loan spell there, scored 15 goals in all competitions, 13 of them in the league, and 30 starts and 9 appearances from the bench. The thing with Jordan Hugill is he can frustrate you at times, because I wouldn't say he's a natural finisher like someone like Teemu Pukki is. He's more of a hold-up man who can come up with something spectacular every now and again. With Jordan Hugill as well, what puts him apart from some other target men in the league is his mobility. He's actually really fast off the mark. He gives you the option to be able to press people. Where some target men are a little bit immobile, you very much have to play up towards them. Jordan Hugill's very adaptable in the spaces he can take up. He's also very good at playing with a strike partner as well. I know that Daniel Farke's not really too keen on a 2-striker formation, but looking at Jordan Hugill's past, he had an excellent link up with Nahki Wells during his time at QPR. With North End, had some brilliant link up play with Sonny Maguire. So even a 2-striker formation at Hugill and Pukki or Hugill and Adam Ida, all in all, I think that one could turn out to be a decent option for Norwich. The only sort of snag at the moment seems to be the wages. I know he's on £35 5 grand a week at West Ham. I can't see Norwich paying that. But for all parties, really, I think that would be a good move. I certainly miss him from his time at North End, and I think that Norwich would be getting a good deal there. And then we get into the Ivan Toney situation. A lot has happened on this over the last few days. Now, on Monday, it was confirmed that Brentford had had a bid accepted for the Peterborough striker, 6.5 million with add-ons that would take that deal up to the 10 million mark. Obviously, Ivan Toney just had a cracking season in League One with Peterborough. 24 goals for them, 5 assists in 32 appearances. By all accounts, from my perspective at least, the move to Brentford would seem the perfect one for his career, really. He'd be going into one of the favourites in the Championship next season who plays this attacking, expansive football. If Ollie Watkins was to move on, which is looking more than likely with all the Premier League interest surrounding him at the moment, he'd go into that team and be the man leading the line for them. And so when the bid was accepted, I just assumed that this deal would be on. However, what has come out since then is it looks like Ivan Toney is actually going ahead and rejected that move to Brentford, as he's got his hopes set on a move to the Premier League, which I'm very interested to see how this all develops. Who's going to come in for him in the Premier League? Is he going to get that move? Because if nothing does come off for him with that move to the Premier League, then I think a move to Brentford would just be perfect for him at this stage of his career. What do you guys think about this situation? Is he making a mistake by not making that move to Brentford, or do you think he's well within his rights to hold out for that Premier League move? Let me know down below. Another Peterborough forward being linked around at the moment is Saruki Dembele. He had an absolutely fantastic finish to the season with them. In his last 9 matches for Peterborough, had 10 goal involvements. Now, the club's currently linked Nottingham Forest, Brentford, Crystal Palace and Fulham, said to be rated at around about £5 million. He's got wonderfully quick feet, really good technical football. He can either play as a striker or a winger. Had a fantastic partnership with Ivan Toney last season, and it's obvious to see why there's so much interest in him. Really lit it up in League One last season, only 23 years old as well. Che Ojo from Liverpool's also been linked around the Championship at the moment after previously having a loan spell at Rangers. Has featured in the Championship before. He's previously played for Fulham, Wolves and Wigan at this level, but the 23-year-old winger is currently being linked with a move to Nottingham Forest, Huddersfield and Reading. Would be a good option as a winger who's got quite a bit of experience behind him now with the multiple loan spells he's had out previously. The latest one to Rangers, I think, definitely boosted his career. Speaking of Reading, they're in a bit of a sticky situation with the Ovie Ejaria situation at the moment, who has most recently been linked with a move to Turkey. Now, he is training with Reading at the moment. There was a loan to buy agreement which was agreed with Liverpool last season. However, Reading are sort of in need to sort out their finances before they can go ahead and actually fund this deal. Mark Bowen said that the transfer is all wrapped around what we can do in terms of our finances, so whether that's going to take someone to leave for them to get that money to buy him. You know, John Swift's been one player who has been linked quite heavily away with Reading in the past few weeks, but you would think the fact that he's actually training with Reading, that a deal should be fairly close and the player actually wants the move as well. Definitely want to see how that turns out. I'd love to see Ejaria back in the Championship for next season though. Really did enjoy his time last season with Reading. Bournemouth playmaker David Brooks has been linked with a move to Manchester United. We spoke about David Brooks a few videos ago, but as soon as the Manchester United interest came out, I think that Bournemouth would have definitely put the price tag up a little bit. The fee being talked around at the moment, £40 million Bournemouth want for him. By the Man United fan base, at least what I've seen of it on Twitter, they're not too keen on the transfer, but I think a lot of that stems from like the Dan James one and how he's sort of turned out so far at Man United. But Brooks, I think, is a wonderfully gifted footballer. Obviously, he missed a lot of last season through injury, but his breakthrough year both at Sheffield United and his first season at Bournemouth in the Premier League, he was absolutely superb for them. He's a wonderfully talented player, and I'd love to see him in the Championship for this season with Bournemouth, but should he go, I mean, Bournemouth are going to demand a high price tag, aren't they? One that does look to be almost over the line is Aaron Ramsdale moving to Sheffield United. I'm interested to see where Bournemouth look to restructure their squad and look to reinvest some of this money into, but by all accounts he is having his medical at Sheffield United today, so that one should get over the line. Doucouré from Watford's been heavily linked with the move to Everton. This is one that I can see going over the line. I think that one footballer who I don't think any Watford fans expected to stick around really. He has had some fantastic years there though. He was one of my personal favourites from my fantasy football team over the last few years. The only question remains to be what fee would Watford be getting. The current price tag currently being talked around that 25 million mark, which is probably a fair price tag for Watford. It'd be interesting to see how they go ahead and reinvest that. Derby looks set to announce the signing of Wigan goalkeeper David Marshall. Now, I personally think this one is a pretty good deal for them. He is 35, but a vastly experienced goalkeeper, was the obvious position where Derby needed to strengthen this summer, and David Marshall comes in and is a massive improvement on what Derby have had lately. Ben Hamer last season and Roos as well. The amount of points that Derby dropped from individual mistakes from a goalkeeper, bringing in an experienced man like David Marshall, who kept 15 clean sheets for Wigan last season, was a superb goalkeeper from his time at Hull and Cardiff as well. I think they're getting a decent deal here, Derby. Speaking of goalkeepers, North End number 2 Connor Ripley has been linked with moves to League 2 side Salford City. Wouldn't be surprised to see this one go through, really. He's not had a great time with North End. He came in with a fairly decent reputation, but he's not been able to displace Declan Rudd as our number 1. Had a string of pretty poor performances in cup games, the odd league appearance he had here and there. I don't think that North End would stand in the way of this one. Swansea been heavily linked with a move for Wigan winger Jamal Lowe. They had a bid of 500k turned down. It's an interesting situation, obviously, with the financial troubles that Wigan are in at the moment. Swansea were sort of testing the waters with that bid, I think, a little bit. They brought him in last summer from Portsmouth for around about £2 million, and Wigan actually still owe Portsmouth 750k for unpaid fees for that deal. So obviously, if they were to then sell the player for 500k, they would still be having to cough up another 250k in unpaid fees to pay to Portsmouth. So it's probably going to take a little bit more than that to tempt him out of Wigan for Swansea, but would be a good option for Swansea. It was a bit of a frustrating start to the last season for Jamal Lowe. It took a bit of time for him to find his feet at Wigan. His decision making just wasn't quite there. He was being bullied off the ball a little bit easily, but he really worked in his game throughout the season, and in the second half of the season was like a completely different player. Ended the season with 6 goals and 5 assists, so 11 goal contributions isn't bad at all. I think he's a much better player for that first stint in the Championship, and if Swansea do sign him, they'll reap the benefits of that season he had with Wigan. Also, could be interesting to see what happens with AU as well, if he's going to be sticking it around with Swansea for another year, or if he's going to be departing. Lowe could be that replacement, so we'll wait and see on that one. The Joe Worrell to Burnley speculation continues as well. This one's going to be an interesting story, with Burnley ready to offer £4 million plus Ben Gibson in an exchange deal for the defender. Now, Forest fans, I'd be interested to get your view on this one. Do you think that would be a decent deal? Ben Gibson, in his time previously spent in the Championship with Middlesbrough, an absolutely fantastic defender, just struggled for fitness really at Burnley. That move's just not worked out at all. Obviously, the Premier League interest in Joe Worrell's understandable after the season he's just had at Forest. Last season, no player had more clearances in the Championship than Joe Worrell. I think he was right up there for blocks as well. Birmingham have been linked to Spurs youngster Jack Clarke. Obviously, he had his breakthrough in the Championship a year or so ago with Leeds. He then got his move to Spurs, and then since then hasn't played all too much football. He initially had a loan spell back at Leeds, but didn't feature for them. Then after that, spent the second half of the season out on loan at QPR, where he just really made a handful of appearances off the bench. Clarke could turn out to be a decent option for Birmingham next year. Definitely gives them a bit more dynamism on that right hand side. But we will leave it there for today's video, guys. So as always, any other transfer rumours that we didn't mention today, get them in the comments down below and we'll have a bit of a discussion about them. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching. Honestly, the support on the channel recently, guys, has been absolutely mental. I can't say thank you enough. So if you are new around here, make sure to go ahead and subscribe for some regular Championship content. We're getting closer to that 30k mark. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.